Mick Jackson. I have just completed a series of treatments for throat cancer. I'm here with Wendy Lilly, Information Support Lead for Macmillan. And the idea of this small series of podcasts is to try and give some idea of what I went through in my treatment, really, so that people can get a feel for what it's going to be like when they go through their treatment, or compare with what it's like as they're going through their treatment. So I am 71 years old. I have spent my working career in logistics, living and working all around the world in different places, and I retired 10 years ago. I did 5 years of part-time teaching GCSE geography, which was a bit more challenging with 14 and 15-year-olds than a logistics career was. So I guess I stopped work about 10 years ago, and was bought the first of what is now, I think, 14 ukuleles that I own, and I am a member of the Northampton Ukulele Group, who meet on Thursday nights. I'll be plenty of plugs for that later. For lots of the preceding 10 years, I've been our family has been out to a friend's house in Calasparra in central Spain, and every time I go out, I take the ukulele, and we have lots of drunken sing-songs and that sort of thing. And I'm apparently known by the local Spanish neighbours as the mad Englishman with the little guitar. So in discussion with Wendy, the title of this podcast series is going to be The Mad Englishman with the Little Guitar and the Big C. So here we go. So if I go back to the second half of 2022, I turned 70 in May, and as a family, we're quite big fans of the Benidorm TV series. So we decided that my 70th would be, we would all go and stay in the Solana Hotel in the Benidorm program. I turned 70 on the dance floor of Neptune's to a Queen tribute band. So that was all okay. Then in July 2022, just before we organised a belated party for my birthday, I managed to trip over a dog feeding station at a local pet store and got a triple fracture of my left shoulder. And so then I had a titanium plate put in, etc., etc. I give that as background because the second half of 2022 was a bit taken up with that, because it was obviously sort of fairly painful, fairly difficult to handle. So as it got to November, December last year, there was still some COVID about. I was feeling sort of quite fluey, and the shoulder thing and everything. And I'd sort of started to notice a lump in the side of my neck. And for, I guess, October, November, December, into January, I put it down to swollen glands with flu and that sort of thing. As we got into January, any sort of flu symptoms or cold symptoms disappeared, but the lump was still there, and then the lump started to grow. So that's when I went to see the GP sometime in January, got put onto the 2-week pathway, got in to see the ear, nose and throat consultant, I think on 16th of February, something like that. She had a look. They put a camera up the nose and down into the throat. She immediately didn't like what she saw. So I then went in for a biopsy at the beginning of March. And by the end of March, I was diagnosed with, I'm going to pick up script here. I was diagnosed with a P16 positive, poorly differentiated squamous cell carcinoma oropharynx T2N3M0, lesion in the base of tongue, a bulky right lingual tonsil with an apparent lesion and an enlarged right level 2 nodes, which meant not a thing to me. And that was the start of quite a stressful period, obviously. So I was very conscious throughout my treatment that, particularly in the oncology waiting room or the radiotherapy waiting room, I saw a lot of people sitting there, frankly, with terrified looks on their faces. And I was obviously one of those at one point. And it's the fear of the unknown. What does it mean? What is this? There's this dreadful aura about cancer, the big C. What do we do about it? So really, the point of this series of podcasts really is to try and help out people and to try and take some of that fear of the unknown away. And it starts with some of the things that I felt with sort of after the diagnosis, really. The first thing I would say is don't overdo the guilt. It's easy to really sort of beat yourself up and say, why didn't I act earlier? Why is it me? If it's got to be 1 in 2 people that got cancer, why is it me? My wife and I have now both had cancer. So somewhere there's 2 people that won't get it, but why? And you start to really, really feel guilty about it. But I think you really have to just bury that and live with that, and not let it eat and get away with you.
Almost accept it that you've had the diagnosis. Do you think, is that what you did? You come to
Yes, I think so. And apparently it depends whether it's the type of cancer that it is as to whether it's been caused by the HPV virus or whether it, and apparently this was the case with me, that it was caused by this virus. So that's my first thing, is really, if you can come to terms with any sort of personal guilt that you've got because you didn't act fast enough, you did something that led to it, try and just sort of come to terms with yourself on that.
Did you get help with that, or is that a skill you've got, sort of not overthinking? And
yeah, I just try to give it perspective. I think that's if you can give some perspective on it, that's going to make things a lot easier. The second big thing, which I'm so glad I did it in the way that I did it, the second big thing was to avoid Google's hellholes. Because as soon as you go onto Google, you will find yourself going deeper and deeper and deeper into some very, very dark places. The reason I know that is that about, 6 years ago, something like that, my wife had breast cancer. And she's okay now. She had some lymph nodes removed and that sort of thing. But I can remember in that period after the diagnosis, I can sort of remember waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and realise that she's sitting there in bed with the iPad going deeper and deeper. And so if you can avoid that, I managed to avoid that right the way through. You could say I'm sticking my head where the sun doesn't shine, but it worked for me. So
yeah, there's so much out there, isn't there? And a lot of it is American based, so treatment regimes are going to be different and approaches, and some of the stuff isn't good stuff as well. It's not reputable. So I think you did right. Stick to the good, well-known organisations like Macmillan, Cancer Research,
and trust the professionals. It's and I've got to say the professionals right the way through. I must have seen 100 people, I would think, over the last sort of 6 months or whatever, in one way or another, and with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 they've all been absolutely fantastic. So, and and a lot of people have said that. So, I put my trust completely in the professionals. I guess the other thing, the last thing in that sort of area really is start handling other people as soon as you can, especially close family.
Okay.
Now, again, going back to my wife's, Nikki's, cancer experience, at the time of her diagnosis, our daughter was doing A levels and our son was doing GCSEs. So in this early stage, we didn't tell them until we knew exactly what was, and that was absolutely the right decision. But they were upset about that, because they were old enough, they felt, to have coped with it. So this time we brought them into the loop fairly early, which was quite distressing for them, but it was in the round that made it a lot better. So that's really my background into it. I think there's then 3 stages that I think I can share some sort of good and bad experiences from. One is really the whole pre-treatment period, the sort of 6 weeks or so before the treatment really starts. Then there's the treatment itself, and there's obviously a lot of things going on there, and there's a lot of sort of self-help things that can help out a bit there. And then finally, there's the post-treatment, which is where I am now, really. So let's start really with where we left off there, because it's dealing with the others, that's other people, that I just find fascinating, absolutely fascinating experience. So close family, that's one thing. So moving out, if you like, sort of outwards from the sort of from the close family to the nuclear family, then my brothers, my sisters, nieces, nephews, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and that sort of thing. I've tried as far as possible to make light of it, not too much, but just make light of it, so that just to try to make other people feel better about it, I guess. So the first thing I did for my sort of siblings and that group of people was really to set up a WhatsApp group called, I think it was Bulletin Updates on Mick's Medical Adventure, or Bummer. So that seemed fairly appropriate. So that meant I didn't have to go and tell every one of them individually, and maybe tell one person slightly differently from another person, then they'd be annoyed because of that, etc., etc. So
a good idea.
Yeah,
you've got to keep telling your story.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you do it once, and I put as much light-hearted stuff into that as possible.
Did you allow a two-way? Because we've known people that it's purely one way, that it's an information given WhatsApp and that's it. But did you allow a two-way conversation?
Absolutely, yeah. Because the two-way helped me as well. Even if it was just thinking of you and all that sort of thing. Yeah. There's some more to come on to that a bit later, because it didn't work universally with everybody in the same way. Okay, so I guess really the next group, as you move out from that, is friends. Okay, and I've got to say, most of my friends were absolutely fantastic. They'd seek me out. They'd check frequently. They'd phone every week. I got an amazing number of gifts and that sort of thing. One of my friends is a really good artist, and he painted a picture which is about this big, which it still sits by my bed now, and it's a lovely painting of a river in the Norfolk Broads with a tree in the foreground. And if you look at it, the tree stands in the foreground, and that is just something. And it means I could sit there particularly as I got out of bed in the morning, I could sit there and disappear into the picture. And that was a really lovely way. That was a lovely touch.
Yeah.
From other friends, I've got great big hampers full of books and everything, books and socks, the biscuits and that sort of thing. Yeah. We got cream tea for two sent in a box from somebody, and just too many things to think about. You know, some absolutely lovely things.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate because my diagnosis was in March, so my treatment finished in the course of treatment finished somewhere around the end of June. So a lot of that period was in the spring and summer. So conscious of the immune system being hammered and that sort of thing, we set up an al fresco area, and it was mixed consulting room, and so people would come and sit, and it costs a fortune in tea and biscuits, but apart from that, that was really nice. So people, you know, were coming sort of quite regularly just to come and sit, socially distanced, and chat, and that was really.
Did that feel okay? Did you ever feel it was too much, or could you control it?
No, it was just so nice to see people. I know when you're in hospital, you sit in a hospital bed, and then people come and visit you, and if you're in for a little while, you just absolutely knackered because but it wasn't like that at all. It was just really nice to see people, and so that was good. So mostly again, friends work, the relationships work really well, but it didn't with everybody, and one of my close family members was concerned and was upset because they thought they were a bit younger than me, and they thought they're going to get the same thing a few years down the line, and I'm glad that came out because you could discuss that then, and so you need to be sort of conscious of other people's feelings, and there's another person, a reasonably near neighbour that I used to see a lot of the time, just didn't come talk at all. And you just need to be conscious of some people can't handle the fact. And you know yourself, if somebody that you know loses somebody, and their wife dies, their husband dies, or something like that, until you've been able to say to that person, "I'm really sorry about your loss." Once you've said that, then you can start to. But saying that first thing to them is really difficult.
That conversation opener is a hard thing.
And some people just haven't been able to handle getting over that hurdle. And that's the same thing about the sort of aura that sits around, what is basically just it's just an illness. It's just it's a disease, isn't it? So,
and it's good you recognise that it was more about their ability, not taking it personally, because we do hear sometimes people being disappointed or taking it personally that people haven't come forward and spoken with them or supported them in the way they thought they might. Because quite often, like you say, quite rightly say, it's about their ability to be able to do it for whatever reason. Some people never experience people who've got a cancer diagnosis or don't know how to have a conversation opener. So the default is to say nothing or avoid people.
But then I suppose you've got to be reasonably careful about the way you then handle that. Because you don't want to force that onto them either. So that's really the sort of best advice I can give for the early part. Getting the diagnosis, not blaming yourself, dealing with what will be very different reactions from different people. So there's a whole other chapter on dealing with the NHS, and because it's
treatment.
Which I think we can talk about in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. With this one as well, I don't know if it's worth it. Did you do anything physically to prepare yourself for the treatment? So there was that period of time between diagnosis and your treatment. The reason why we sort of ask is like we've got a new team started now, the prehab team, and the idea is it's a group of therapists, team of therapists that will help support people prior to treatment with diet, exercise, and giving them the best possible chance to start treatment. But obviously the team wasn't around when you were diagnosed, Mick. So was there anything you did independently to prepare you physically for treatment?
There was lots of stuff I didn't do, which I wish I had. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Sometimes you need guidance to know what to do as well, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I lost. I think I probably lost about 20 kilos through the treatment. I think it was about 20 kilos that I lost, which, it's great, you lose weight and that sort of thing. But I've lost it from the wrong places, really. And I thought I was reasonably fit, but it does knock a lot out of you. And there is one other bit about that I've forgotten about the relationship with people, because I think I probably heard from at least 6 people, maybe 8 people, who told me a story. When I sort of told them about my diagnosis, they with the absolute best of intentions, they'd say to me, well, I know somebody who's had the treatment, had exactly that treatment for throat cancer. But in telling the story, what they wanted to say which was really good, was that and the treatment was successful, and it was 10 years ago, it was 15 years ago, and it hasn't come back. That's the message they were get. But in order for them to get that message across, they had to say, but it was really brutal. It's a brutal treatment. And they said it's really bad. So I'm thinking, oh no, and I should really have tried to do something about trying to get myself more fit to cope with that, which I didn't. So my legs are much weaker than I would rather they were. I can go. I mean, I can do sort of, I can do 10,000-12,000 steps a day, but not in the way that I used to. And so my legs need strengthening, and so really, could I put weight on? I don't know. It was just it was something slightly bizarre during the treatment period of being told by NHS professionals, you've got to put weight on. You've got to stop losing weight. You've got to eat sweet stuff. You've got to eat the full fat stuff. Get weight put on.
What you're used to.
I didn't get to the shape I was without but without sort of at least 50 years of people from the NHS telling me not to eat. No, so that prehab would be really, really, really useful, I would think. Yes.
Sometimes people just don't know what they should be doing or need to do.
And you don't know, particularly because this treatment hammers your throat, it hammers your mouth. And it does. No point in trying to hide that. It's 30 courses of radiotherapy, into that area there, and eventually it just does get too much, and you can't eat. But in the build-up, before you get to the stage where you can't swallow, it's not very pleasant to swallow. So you do lose a lot of weight, and the concern for the professionals by losing weight is one that you don't fit in your mask as well as you used to. More of that in the next one. And then secondly, it makes it that much more difficult for your recovery if you lost too much weight. But it's quite a difficult one to do much about, that is.
So next next podcast, we're going to talk about the treatment and how, the kind of treatment you had and how you coped with the side effects of the treatment. So thank you, Mick. That's given us a good overview and a nice introduction to the podcast. And like you say, hopefully people will listen and have a bit of an awareness of, what you've experienced, and take away some, helpful tips that you've discussed today about how to cope in that very early stage.
Yes, if that helps, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.